FGC, it's an interesting time. We're back with Extra Trashy. We have breaking news to go through today because EVO has announced the next phase of evolution, which of course involves a lot of interesting expansion courtesy of the Saudi Arabian government. So I'm here with my man Idom. We're going to break down the news and get into the who, what, where, when, why, and figure out what we can take away from all this, because there's a lot to digest here and a lot of different angles to view this new expansion that EVO just announced. So, Adam, how you feeling, man? How you doing with all that snow out there?
Surviving a blizzard going on right now, but I can't miss, with all the snow, you still can't miss the trash. The trash still gotta come around, so we gotta be ready.
Bars, man. Hold up. Okay, whoa. In the midst of all this, we got branding ideas. No matter what, the trash got to get picked up. That's true, because this is the big one. We weren't even going to talk about this, but the way the schedule lined up, we got the announcement and the tweet went out from the official EVO account that the next phase of evolution is underway. And in that tweet, they linked an article that broke down exactly what EVO is aiming for. And the high-level summary is that they're expanding EVO. You thought 3 EVOs per year was a lot with having USA, Japan, and France. Well, guess what, buddy? We're getting 9 minimum. They're adding to the roster Singapore, EVO Morocco, EVO Brazil, EVO China, EVO Saudi Arabia, and EVO Mexico. There's also a brand new fighting game world championship. And on top of all that, they promised to maybe give a local a PS5 or 2. I don't know. We'll have to see what they actually mean by that. So there's a huge amount to delve into. First off, I think the big thing is they're going for 9 EVOs a year. 9 EVO tournaments in 1 year all throughout the world. A lot of different angles to take on this one. I don't know, where do we even start with this? Hey, thanks for checking out the brand new Trash Talk content, and maybe you're enjoying the new and refreshed look on the brand new Trash Talk YouTube channel. Well, whether or not you're tuning in on YouTube or Spotify or another podcast platform, I wanted to thank today's sponsor, you. To commemorate kicking off the new season of Trash Talk, we've also launched a new merch line. This new merch line's on a brand new merch store over at Orchid 8. You can check out t-shirt and hoodie designs for the new Trash Talk logos and Extra Trashy logos. We also have brand new unique designs like Hajoken, custom move lists, one more coffee sip for real, and of course, Brian F's signature spaghetti. On top of that, of course, we've got all the designs on mugs as well. To check out what's available, just head over to brianf.shop to see all the brand new merch. Okay, that's all I got. Back to the episode. This is insane.
When I first saw the 9 EVOs, the first thing that came to my mind, and I don't know if it was on yours as well, there is 365 days in a year. You don't have enough space to run that many EVOs. It's actually impossible. There's just not enough time. Where are these EVOs going to go? There's 12 months. You got 9 EVOs. That's like most of the year, I feel like.
Yeah. So the total number of events for EVO, if you count the 9 EVOs plus this still kind of ambiguous and a little silly, in my opinion, we'll get into it, the Fighting Game World Championship Tournament, and then also EVO Awards is still a thing. That makes 11 distinct in-person EVO events that are hosted. You know, these 9, I'm assuming open bracket, convention style, typical EVO tournaments, the blueprint that we've come to know, plus the Fighting Game World Championship, but I have to assume it's going to be an invite tournament based on the format they described, and then the EVO Awards. So they're filling the entire calendar year, man. This is their plan to expand. And it's so interesting because just last year, we were having this same podcast where we were talking about with EVO France added to the roster 3 EVOs a year, has EVO watered down its legacy and its brand? And I was already arguing. I think I was more leaning that direction. Like, yeah, I think so. I think it's kind of diminishing. Like, what do you even consider to be the Super Bowl of fighting games, of EVO? Like, what's the big event of the year? And there's a whole debate around the community about that. And I think there might even be a quote like, "Oh, 3, that's okay as long as you don't have 9." Who would do that? Well, it turns out EVO's gonna do that. 9 EVOs in a year.
I was a bit on the same side. I was like, three's okay. I understand 3. Like, you know, there's a lot of people in the EU who probably can't get to Japan or America and can't go to EVO. So I was like, 3 is fine. I do think it's good for You know, a lot of the Europeans, I know there are a lot of Europeans out there who can't go to EVO. So 3 was fine. 9 is so much. I do think it is beneficial for like people in other countries to be able to go to EVO. Like probably a lot of Brazilians who are unable to go to EVO. There's probably a lot of people in say like a China who can't, you know, afford to go to EVO. So they're blessed, they're lucky to get like EVO for themselves and save a lot more money. But still, 9 EVOs, that's insane. That's nuts.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a lot of good that can come about from this, and my personal surprise take, there's mostly a lot of bad, and I do at one point want to zoom out and give the greater context of what's going on. But if we just zoom in for a second, there's a lot of mixed reactions to this. I think overwhelming majority of maybe the American audience reactions is this is just overall a negative. Even if you can find this all to just the EVO as a product sphere without considering any greater geopolitical implications of it all, just EVO as a product. If we take it from that level, many people are arguing, and I kind of agree, that this is like watering down the brand. It makes it so that it's not very distinct who is the EVO champion. There used to be one EVO a year. They added 2 with EVO Japan, and EVO France was pushing it. But I would argue after the end of that 1 year, I enjoyed each one of the tournaments on their own accord. However, I still don't think of Lashar in my mind as EVO champion. I'm sorry. I let go. I love Lashar. Street Fighter 6 EVO France champion. It doesn't register to me on an emotional level that was an EVO championship. Even though EVO France was a great spectating event, awesome hype, great tournament on its own. Don't get me wrong. It still hasn't stuck culturally in my mind that was like an EVO championship. I don't know if you feel the same.
I feel a bit the same, but my issue with that is, while EVO France was, you know, super hype, really good tournament, I think for us, at least for me, to register an EVO France as a really big tournament, I feel like I still in my mind see Combo Breaker still a bigger tournament than EVO France, I feel like. So I feel like Combo Breaker still has like a bit more prestige, because even for Combo Breaker 2025, there was like around 6,000. I'm rounding up a bit, but there's like 6,000 people there. For EVO France, even in just total of all the games there's still like 4,000. So Combo Breaker to me is still even a bigger event than EVO France, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. So there's this discussion about impact and the identity of what EVO was, because it used to just be quite simply the pinnacle of fighting games, the culmination of a whole year of fighting games and celebrating the community, and that was supposed to be the event. And the issue with that was, of course, like lack of access, travel, getting to the U.S. is very difficult, and in this day and age, I don't blame anyone who doesn't want to travel to the U.S. It's becoming more and more difficult and hard to justify, costly, etc., etc. All extremely valid points. And then the expansion of these EVO events to all these other regions is serving a need, right? Like there's so many fighting game fans and players from all over the world who might for the first time have access to an event of this scale, or maybe period, right? I mean, these are going to places like Singapore. I mean, Singapore definitely has a lot of fighting game majors in the past, but you could look at places like Morocco and EVO in North Africa, EVO Brazil. You know, Brazil's been struggling to get proper tournaments of scale in terms of like prizing. There's always issues with like getting prize money. I wonder how that's going to be handled, because they have really, I would argue, bad gambling laws that impact pricing, so they never get paid. Players, or Street Fighter players from Brazil, never get paid for the World Warrior, any of the CPT events in Brazil. There's always issues in getting the pricing out. So I wonder how that's going to be tackled. But I could see that as a barrier to entry as well for bigger tournaments being run there. China, that's interesting as well, because I feel like China does have a lot of big tournaments, but there's still this like disconnect between the rest of the global community in China, and Street Fighter is getting really, really big in China. It's one of the fastest growing player populations in the world is in China, and we're still kind of disconnected from it. It's still kind of hard to get the Bilibili, I think that's a streaming service, like their archives. You have to like go to these different like Chinese streaming websites and dig through the tournament archives. So I think that'll connect the global communities. EVO Mexico, right? It gives more access to multiple communities who maybe couldn't afford, or were like just literally could not have access due to visa issues, whatever, around the world. So that's great. I think that's obviously flat out positive, and many people are focusing on that. It makes this dream more attainable and real to fighting game fans all over the world, and I think that's a flat out positive. Like that I don't think there's any way you could argue that's a negative. Like that's, I think, a great thing. And if you're happy, if you're from one of these communities that were given an EVO or adjacent to them, and you feel positive about it, I don't want to diminish that. Like that's a very real thing to feel. So I don't know. I think that's a good thing. Like you can't argue that. There could be a new generation of fighting game champions from any one of these different regions.
I mean, Blaz is the best example. Like, if it wasn't for Capcom Cup, we may not even know who Blaz is. Who's to say there's not like a Blaz in Morocco or there's not a Blaz in Brazil that we don't know about? So I agree. Like, getting the community bigger and just getting people to watch the event. Also, there's just more exposure because I feel like one thing that I don't like about these EVO announcements is EVO's basically taking every tournament. If there was just like a random Brazilian tournament, maybe people would not have tuned in. But if it's EVO Brazil, EVO, if people know EVO, so they're gonna watch and be more invested, more interested in like the Brazilian community.
Yeah, double-edged sword there, right?
Yeah,
that's the other side we're gonna have to get into. I kind of want to focus on the positives as far as long as possible. People think we're a little pessimistic, Adam, especially me. I don't know if you've been paying attention to the comments. Some people think we're a little negative Nancy's over here.
I don't know what they're talking about. I say nothing but good things all the time.
Yeah. So what other positives can I dig for here in this announcement?
Well, there is one other thing that I think is a bit shaky depending on who you're asking. I do think the players will probably get paid more, to be honest. I could only imagine the players get paid more, especially since like all the Saudi stuff and sports washing and all that stuff. People getting top 8 are like, I think last year they paid out top 24. Who's to say it doesn't start paying out top 32 or top 64 or whatever? So it could, your pockets could be better if you're performing well at these events.
Yeah, so they already announced the increase in pricing for EVO 2026, which I believe was like a minimum floor of like 30,000 now. Like I apologize, I don't have the number off the top of my head. But they that's been the general trend since the Saudi partnership first began, is that the floor for the pricing for the top 8 has been increasing, and then basically the bigger tournaments subsidize the smaller tournaments because it doesn't go over. I don't know. I can't remember if they changed that pricing structure, but basically like minimum $30,000 for the top 8. But if your tournament has 10 million people, it doesn't matter. The pricing is still $30,000 for top 8, right? Like that was kind of like the way it was structured. So Street Fighter 6 would subsidize the smaller tournaments, and everyone would kind of get paid the same to a degree. So they might have changed that now where it's more of a pot bonus. I can't quite recall. So Nuji editing this, I don't know, maybe put some infographic up. We'll figure it out post. Video of watchers will have to get the real intel. But yeah, money will go up because for the bigger context here, we didn't talk about this the other week, but basically EVO is now fully owned by Saudi Arabia. Prior to a couple of weeks ago, there was Nodwin Gaming, which was a subsidiary of Nazara, like a big company out in India. That was like the esports leg of that company. And Nodwin Gaming owned part of EVO, and then RTS owned the other part. And RTS still owned the majority of it. And RTS is part of Qiddiya, and Qiddiya is like the big entertainment city mega project near Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, which is a huge part of the whole Project 2030, Vision 2030 initiative from Saudi Arabia, where they're trying to pivot their dependency on oil economically to diversify and find some kind of way out. And so this whole like big tourism city and entertainment and esports, it's all part of this investment, and it's all wholly owned by the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund, PIF. So like this is 100% top down, like Saudi. This is not like a private enterprise, a private business within Saudi Arabia. It doesn't really exist to this degree. It's always like owned directly by the government. So if you don't like the government, you might not like any of their business ventures. Like it's one-to-one connected, which is a different system that you might not be used to in other countries, like Sony in Japan, or like a business from America they're not owned by the government, right? So like that's the thing. And they have all the money in the world, more money than they could possibly ever imagine, and that's why they're able to make these crazy investments into business ventures that don't make money, putting up EVOs all over the world, paying players, buying out SNK, putting 1.5 million into the SNK World Championship for first place. They're not making money on that. Like there's no money being made. It's just part of the initiative to potentially find more ways to increase soft power in the world, get more tourism to Qiddiya and into Saudi Arabia, grow the awareness and, sports watch to a degree, the reputation, the global economy and global world, so that eventually more people go to Saudi Arabia, tourism, money. Like they're trying to shift away from just being oil and form these connections with the world. Like that's why they're doing this. This is not something that is seen as like they're going to make money. They're going to make so much money hosting EVOs all over the world. It's a little bit of like a charity right now. Like it's like, hey, we're friendly. We're your friends. We'll put these EVOs all over the world. And so in the short term, yeah, players are going to make more money. I think for sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
You think they're going to go to all these EVOs though? 9 EVOs in 1 year? They're going to go to all of them?
I think they have. I hate to say it, but I think they have like an infinite money glitch. I actually don't think it's that much of an issue. I think they're going to probably put it into all the EVOs.
But you think the players will go to all the EVOs?
Oh, all the players?
Yeah.
So this goes back to this is something else. If all 9 of these EVOs that are happening are Pro Tour, CPT, SNK, Arc World Tour, TWT events, kind of have to, don't you? If you're sponsored, are you trying to get into the event? You kind of have to.
Right. And I know Idom, that's your big goal for this year. So we're going to see Idom in Brazil, Idom in Morocco.
Yeah, I know all these EVOs.
Where in the world is Idom this week? It's going to be every other week, man.
I know. I feel like it's going to be an EVO a month, which is really crazy to say, but it's going to be at least one a month.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll be tuning into this podcast mobile. Every week it'll be where in the world is Idom?
From my hotel room. That's recording the podcast.
Yeah, that's all it's going to have to be. Yeah, so, one other positive, maybe players will get paid more. I mean, I think you objectively see that, even though I don't think it hasn't been crazy prize pools.
You're not going to make, $1 million for getting 9th at EVO. That's just not going to happen. But
right.
You'll get something back.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as shitty as like getting 9th play and getting nothing like it was in like 2019, 2018.
Sure. Yeah. So there's going to be a little bit more money in the ecosystem for players for the time being. I think that's another, I guess, positive.
We gotta scratch the bottom of the surface. Like, the local support to me is also, I think that's also great. I don't know what's going to happen, but I go to my local a lot. I try to help my local out. So I don't know what it exactly is, but I hope anything to grow awareness of locals is like super important. It's the old guy in me, I'm getting kind of up there in age now, but like I don't want locals to die, to be honest. I love seeing people at offline weeklies and stuff. So
yeah, they opened up the article with the first section being community first always. And in that section they said that they want to help out locals, but the thing is it's not a very clear plan of what they're trying to do. One of the lines is like, EVO setting out to help solve the challenges locals face, from equipment to awareness and player connectivity, permanently. And I don't know, you're having a positive spin on this. I feel like this was just a PR move to soften the blow of a hostile corporate takeover of the FGC, man. I'm already getting into my end analysis of this. I think this is just pure BS PR speak when they realize how batshit crazy this whole plan sounded, and they had to put something up front to soften the blow without a real plan in place.
I agree with you. I'm actually 100% with you. It is there is a PR stunt to kind of like soften the blow, but that glimmer of hope, that little small glimmer of hope, is the same thing that just helped like locals get bigger. I'm not gonna lie, our NLBC going on right now, the numbers have been just going like straight down, so it's been really bad. But I don't want to see it disappear. I don't want to see it die and go in there so long. If anything, like if any like EVO support can help, that'll be great, to be honest. Great for me.
Sure.
For, everyone there.
I wonder what that permanently, what strings are attached with that. It sounds threatening, man. It's like they're going to absorb.
No, it sounds deadly.
It's like you're going to you take the Saudi money, you get absorbed into the arm of the EVO machine here permanently. You're one of us now. Like, I don't know. Something about it it doesn't rub me the right way. It feels ominous, to be quite honest. But I do agree. I would like locals to thrive, of course. I don't know if anything they could do, even if they provided money, could solve that issue systemically, though. I feel like that's just an issue of culture and of online netcode and infrastructure. I think it's a bigger issue than throwing infinite money at this could potentially solve, unless they're like yeah, these prize pools are $1 million for your locals. Like, please show up, right?
Hey.
I don't know. We're gonna pay you literally just to be there. I don't know if it's how they can help too much in certain situations.
I don't like money being the say all end all. Like so many people are like that. Hey, I know people in the New York scene. If there's $1,000 pop bonus at a local, they're gonna show up. I don't like that kind of like logic. I feel like you show up for the love of the game, hang out with your friends, all that stuff. But if hypothetically, if there's like, hey, show up to your local, and if you get top 8, you get like 250. I guarantee you that local will be packed.
Yes, but that's also a top level
Yeah,
incentive. So what if you're like the number 100th ranked person and you know there's zero chance you're gonna get top 8, right? What incentive is there? That's always an issue with those like monetary incentives for prizing. It focuses on the smallest number of community members first. So I think it would have to be different. Maybe pizza if you show up like
pizza party.
Yeah.
NLBC is lucky to get 8 people, so you're guaranteed 250 if you show up.
For the first couple. I get what you're saying. Like, for sure, it would increase numbers for sure. But there's still tournaments out there that have prizing that people don't go to. That happens all the time. Weird off-community, off-brand tournaments that have more money than community connections that people don't show up for. That's been a tale as old as time in the fighting game community.
But that's more of awareness, though. I feel like people would just go there if they knew the tournament exists. The difference is with those events are like people don't know they exist.
Sure. Yeah, and I guess that's one of the things we're trying to solve: awareness. You know.
Yeah.
I guess the number one thing they could do is branding and like resources and stuff like that. That's probably the number one thing they could do. Or like making small local circuits where if you place well, you get flown out to EVO events. I don't know. There could be other things like recurring returns for players to constantly keep showing up to the events, like points over a season, things like that, where it's not just a one-time prize. There's stuff they could do, but I still feel like it doesn't feel genuine to me.
Yeah,
that's my impression.
I guess there's kind of the other thing. Like, say you have a local in like London, and then you win the London local, and then you get a free trip to EVO France, and you're just going to EVO anyway. So I guess you're saving money and you're getting a free trip, but it does kind of say like you're just giving the money right back. Yeah,
you're giving the money to the top player guy who's going to win it anyways, going to go there anyways. Right? That's a different kind of problem to solve. Like, how do you structure incentives that aren't top heavy focus? I think that's a problem FGC has always had. Is it's almost too meritocracy based, right? Like, it's too much focused on the incentivizing the top players or even the first place at the detriment or without supporting the rest of the funnel down beneath, right? That's always been an ongoing issue. So I don't know if EVO with the backing of Saudi can solve that. I mean, if they can, awesome, that would be great. But I think this glosses over like the other issue with this. They come out swinging and saying, "Oh, community first. We're going to support locals." But what they're doing at a structural level is suffocating out every other regional and major to ever exist. This, to me, looks like a hostile takeover of the entire calendar year of events. Why go to any other tournament? Why go to a CEO, a combo breaker? I feel like they're trying to compete on that level. A Frosty Fostings, whatever. It's year long. And there's always been issues with community events trying to not clash on the event schedule and calendar. TOs at the grassroots level always collaborated. There's often been beef. There's, it's a real problem. Like this, like the TOs at the grassroots level, when there used to be more regionals and there used to be a more packed schedule with mid-level events, there would be discussions, there would be beef sometimes. Hey, you put your event on my weekend, yada yada. Like, not every TO always got along, but that was something that had to be settled at the grassroots level. This, to me, is like, hey, we're coming in, we have more money than you could ever fathom, and we're going to build this up, and we're going to suffocate it out at this level so that every tournament for everybody, for every circuit, is just EVO, which to me also signifies, yeah, we have like a Capcom Pro Tour, Tekken World Tour, but for how long? To me, it also feels like they're trying to suck everything into the direction of the only circuit is EVO and EWC, maybe because they're connected, right? Like, where does EWC fit into this? So I see that Fighting Game World Championship as like the beginning of like the EWC format, but only for fighting games, where the EVO circuit is going to lead to that direction and eventually, suffocate out the competition at the major level globally.
I disagree with you there. I think the fighting game championship honestly is just like a hey. I don't know exactly how it's going to work, and I don't think they'll ever get rid of TWT Capcom Cup because that's more of like the people, the developer, like the people who make the game are kind of just the publishers like backing that kind of stuff. Obviously, Sony could just buy them out if they really wanted to, but at the same time, I don't think those will ever go. I don't think they want to step on each other's toes. So I think that one's fine. I do agree with you that they kind of want to suffocate the calendar year. I remember when Texas Showdown and EVO Japan were on the same weekend, and I remember the people at Texas Showdown were so upset. But to go back to that, I don't agree because if I am in the US, hypothetically, and Texas Showdown is one weekend, and I can go to Texas Showdown, or I go to EVO Japan, and one is like an hour drive away from me, and the other one's like a 15, 16-hour plane ride, take an hour drive, and I don't think it's going to step on each other's toes. Maybe for viewership, I think it'll do bad, but for attendance, I don't think it's going to significantly drop. Yeah, viewership.
You hit my point. Yeah, you're not
bad.
wrong about like the hardcore attendees, but the brand awareness and viewership, like that stuff matters, and that's also like how sponsorships are given out for these events. They get viewership on the stream. That's a big part of how these deals are dealt, and for the streamers themselves and for the awareness of the community. So yeah, it'll even if it doesn't immediately suffocate the hardcore percentage of attendees who are like, that's my local event, I'm going to that major, it starts to suffocate the attention of the greater community, because who watched Texas Showdown when they could watch EVO Japan? And also, speaking of Texas Showdown,
they're not on at the same time though. That's also very different.
But it doesn't. People, what people were doing when Texas Showdown was on, they're pulling up the EVO Japan VODs and watching that.
I guess.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just how it is. And also, poor Texas Showdown, great tournament. Let me pull out my my one trophy up there. Awesome tournament. This year, the EVO Awards is during Texas Showdown. So it's not EVO Japan, but EVO Awards are the same weekend as Texas Showdown. So does it matter they moved EVO Japan around or they moved Texas Showdown around? Now there's still another EVO event, and that's going to keep happening. It's just going to it's going to get worse and worse and harder for major events to exist in this environment. It's already been difficult for other reasons outside of EVO's purview, like just the economic realities of how insanely expensive it is to rent out a ballroom. It used to be fairly affordable pre-COVID and before like the 2015s, whatever, to just rent a mid-sized hotel ballroom and run a tournament out of there. You could do it. Now the cost for even like the internet to support the streams required is like you're almost spending 5 to 6 figures on just that alone. Like people are posting all these bills for the internet bandwidth and the number of lines they have to support for the streams, and it's like someone's yearly salary or more, like just for internet, not even the actual venue, all this. So those are the first things that squeezed out a lot of these events, and now this is like more pressure on them as well. So I view this flooding of the calendar as EVO going in that direction to be, hey, we are all that the fighting game community is. Like I think that's the goal. And he even mentioned the developers, like, oh, they're not going to get rid of their own tours, but unless Saudi buys them out. Yeah, absolutely. Saudi is being very forward about partnering with developers and publishers. They're constantly talking about that. EWC is already part of the Capcom Pro Tour. What prevents at a certain point for Saudi to be like, hey, Capcom, this is such a headache for you to run. Let us run it for you. Like, don't worry about it. Like, don't do this anymore. Like, could this be eventually the end of the publisher-backed tour plus finale, where it just becomes the EVO managed circuit? I would not be surprised, and I would not be surprised if that's the goal, at least, from this, because the goal is just to take over everything. Like, yeah, that's very clear now. I mean, it should have been clear from before, but this is like undoubtedly clear. The goal is like at a certain point, it's all EVO. We're taking over the space. This is the playbook they've ran for boxing, racing, golf, whatever. It's the same playbook every time. Buy out the competition, offer insane incentives that community members can't turn down, and then take over. And then The next part we haven't seen yet. What happens when they want a return on investment? Because they're just spending money. They're not making a profit. That's the dangerous part. What happens when they say, "Oh, actually, we're done with this. It was fun while it lasted."
So funny you bring that up. I do want to talk about running 9 EVOs. Gotta be expensive. No, like that's also kind of insane. The fact that before it was 1 EVO, obviously dump all your money, dump all the money, all that stuff. Running EVOs already expensive, but running 9 EVOs now, that's so much money.
Yeah. There's no profit from any of this.
Yeah, there's none.
Like that has to be. I think people who don't get the concern that some people have about this is like this could lead to stifling or suffocating out the growth of grassroots events, and then at the end of it, yeah, sure, they're promising support until 2030. Yeah, Project 2030, right? What happens after that horizon? What if they pull the plug on this and go, never mind. We decided like we got our soft power in this domain. This is the most profitable area for us. We're getting the most tourism and most income from this domain. You know what I mean? Like they're getting their fingers on all these different pies to feel out what direction to go in as a country, as a global economic power. We're just a small little tiny piece of this whole the smallest piece. It's actually insane that this is even happening. Like what a small niche community to just try to take over.
If you compare fighting games to like racing, golf, all that stuff, is like what do we do? We're fighting game players. We don't care about that. They don't care about us. We're like the smallest kind of people to them. We're not.
There might be safety and obscurity, because we're going to be like literally a rounding error in the cost on the spreadsheet for all these other initiatives like Formula 1 racing, boxing, golf. Wait, what is this little decimal point over here? Fighting games? What's that? They might not even realize we're on the books for a whole couple decades. So maybe we're safe for a while, because this is nothing. This is pocket change for Saudi Arabia. So yeah, maybe we get away with it. That's the best you can hope for, I think, because I do think I would suspect there's going to be a negative impact on the rest of the events, and I would imagine the next goal is to keep growing this to the point where they're taking over the tours. That's my suspicion. I don't know. Do you agree with that? Do you think they're going to go that far?
I think it's a double-edged sword. I think people might attend less events if the EVOs are convenient for them to get to, and then obviously if I live in Mexico and I could go to EVO Mexico or another event, I'm probably going to pick EVO Mexico. It's much more efficient and I can save money. But I do think for people who are maybe against EVO, are like they don't want to support Saudi Arabia and all that stuff, they'll also look at like, oh well, I'm not going to EVO this year, I saved about 3, 4, 5 grand, I guess I'll go to Frosties this year. And then those events get bigger. So I think the established events might get bigger, or hell, even smaller events or smaller regional be like, oh, not going to EVO, oh, guess I'll go to Boston Blue Beat or whatever. And then your events might actually get bigger. It'll be bad for EVO because then less people are going to go. And I also think the EVO numbers are going to drop dramatically because I have 9 EVO. I have so many options. Why would I go? I feel like every EVO has grown since 2022, except for 23 to 24. If I'm not mistaken, 23 had 11,064 and 24 had 10,259. But that was probably just because Marvel was the old man game there, so Marvel 3 is the best. But at the same time, I feel like the EVOs are going to keep growing, but now we might actually see an actual decrease in EVO attendee
for like one individual event, right? Maybe because like less people will be traveling globally to one event. Maybe that could be an impact. But it's just interesting to think about the fact that we have 9 EVOs as well, just to touch on. Well, actually, I do want to acknowledge your point about like all the people who don't want to participate because of ethical concerns with supporting Saudi Arabia. Yeah, there could be, you make a decent point there. There could be a surge in some of the more already established grassroots events where people choose to go to that, especially in the American scene, CEO, Combo Breaker, Frosty Fostings, etc., Roundhouse, whatever it may be. You have a point there. There does seem to be a decent amount of fatigue. Like a lot of the reactions to this announcement, aside from those just happy to have an event in their region, like I said, totally valid. A decent number of the reactions right away are like, what the fuck are we doing here, man?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
there's definitely an era of Evo has jumped the shark. Like, you've lost the plot a little bit. So aside from the fact that there's the Saudi ownership, it's also like I think a big allure to a lot of people was, if you go back to the product level again, this is the grand finale. I'm here for the Super Bowl of fighting games, not I'm here for another fighting game tournament and another convention. Mm-hmm. So for some people, they're like, I don't really care as much anymore. Like there's definitely that sense in the air with that. So I don't know. Do you feel like you would care less about EVO Vegas? Like, I still cared about EVO Vegas last year. I still felt like, okay, this is EVO. I don't know if I'm gonna. How long can I feel like that?
Yeah,
and there's 9 of them.
I'm with you too. Like, there's just so many. Like, I still remember for EVO Vegas, I used to be able to tell you every single EVO champion because I was there watching every game on the Sunday finals. I was always so tuned in. That EVO Sunday finals for EVO Vegas, I was like locked in. That was my day. Now it's just like, yeah, I could watch. You know, it might be Lashar Mena Grand Finals in EVO Vegas one weekend, and then Lashar Mena EVO Grand Finals in EVO Brazil, and then I'm like, oh well, who cares? I see this already. So it starts losing its importance. Yeah, it starts losing importance.
Yeah, this could lead to interesting storylines where there's the underrepresented or underprivileged player who's godlike, a blah situation, right? Like that, there could be a storyline or two there that comes out of this, but it could also be, imagine like it's literally the rerun of the same top 5, top 10 players for every game going to every EVO every month over and over. I think there's a little bit of hype there, but I think like I liked that with the Capcom Pro Tour because there was an evolving storyline, but also like a different flavor of every event and a different region, different branding. And then there was still like the stop points of EVO and Capcom Cup, just speaking from a purely Street Fighter perspective. I liked that because it felt like there was like peaks and valleys in between of culminating action, right? But if they're all peaks, then I feel like it's going to start to lose its allure. Even though it's the same players playing, which I would love to watch, I'm going to have a harder time like understanding the stakes because you need contrast. You need some smaller events in between to like build up to the EVO for it to be like, oh, this one's so important because that's it for the whole year, you know. So that's going to be one thing. And the other thing is like, there's 9 EVOs. We're already talking about what does it mean to be an EVO champion. Mena RD is already challenging that idea, winning EVO Japan and EVO Vegas back to back. 2 EVOs in 1 year. Arslan Ash was doing that. And we're like, okay, how do we start comparing EVOs across eras? Mm-hmm. You could win as many EVOs as Justin Wong won in a decade in 1 year now, which would be insane if you pull that off. But still, what does it mean anymore? We're losing the plot a little bit in terms of legacy here.
Justin's record's in danger, first of all. But at the same time, if you win 9 EVOs, I'm just throwing this out there. If you win 9 EVOs in 1 year, your name got to go in the credits. Like you're a part of the video game at that point. You're done. You've already won. You've won at everything.
You've won the game.
Yeah, you beat the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I do think like a lot of the EVOs are just going to be. I feel like if EVO really wanted to do this, I feel like they shouldn't have called it EVO. They should have just tried to make their own event. But then I think they would be scared that the Lashars, the Menas, the Punks, the really well-known international players wouldn't go to the events because they're just an event in some region that they barely go to. So you got to put the EVO name there to get the players to come. Now, I think if say there was a random event and it was a CPT event, then people would go anyway. We saw that with Kings of the World. That was a random tournament, but it was a CPT event, so there were a lot of great players there. So I think it's more of a problem if the developers don't put like a Arc World Tour, a TWT, or Capcom Pro Tour onto it.
Well, we already saw how this goes, and this is going back to the hostile takeover situation. UFA and EVO France were back-to-back, and that really hurt attendance with UFA. Now, UFA was still a Capcom Pro Tour event, which helped its attendance in the Street Fighter 6 front, but that's not guaranteed, man. And we've seen other situations like Tiger Uppercut, because they added CPT Singapore, for example, and now there's just EVO Singapore. So I think CPT Singapore is probably going to go away. It's just going to be EVO Singapore. But we've seen these clashing events where there's like already like a tour backed or an EVO backed event kind of taking away these tour spots from grassroots events. Like that is going to happen even more now. I think that's a fact. Like I don't see any other way this is going to go down.
Yeah. I mean, it's just. You're right. I've never bought
right.
that actually.
Yeah. And imagine if this conflicts with a CEO or a combo breaker, and you have EVO China or whatever on the same day, right? On the same weekend. Are you going to have back-to-back or conflicting Capcom Pro Tour events? They used to do that when it was purely a point system with ranking events because, whatever. Like there's a premiere here, there might be 3 rankings all over the world. It is what it is, right? Like it's designed that way, but the premieres were separated. They were isolated. Now with the point plus qualifying system for Capcom Pro Tour, at least, I don't think they're going to want to have 2 premieres on the same day. Like that's going to be divvying up the competition too much. So there could be more and more situations where publishers are incentivized to lean on EVO and, go in that direction and pull prestige, and that also pulls away incentives for attendance. Like it's just going to be kind of a drain, most likely, on the event calendar from a lot of other established events. This is a direct competition, more so than just purely adding to the community. There's a bit of taking away from established events, I'd have to imagine.
Yeah, I think your level. I get what you're saying with established events, but I feel like not even every established event is created equally. I think if EVO China or in Combo Breaker or on the same weekend or even close to the same weekend, I think Combo Breaker actually would have way more attendance, viewership, all that stuff than in EVO China. Maybe for the Chinese community, more people watch EVO China, but I think in general,
China's a hard example because
EVO China.
It's actually huge in China, and we have very little idea of the viewership numbers. We have very little perspective. So China, I think, is secretly like the 3rd or maybe 2nd largest Street Fighter community right now. So, but I get what you're saying. Maybe a different example, EVO Mexico or something.
Yeah, EVO Mexico or something. But yeah, I think for that event, I think the super established Combo Breaker, they're fine. They don't care. Combo Breaker's fine, CEO's fine. But for like the smaller events, they're fighting for like bits and pieces of just like people caring.
Right. And you mentioned also the idea of like using the EVO branding. Of course, they're going to use the EVO branding for these tournaments, but like establishing certain EVOs being more important than the others. There is this emphasis rather on like Japan and USA. Like they mentioned that several times in this announcement, including with the Fighting Game World Championship. So I guess we should talk about this in detail because I think this is the funniest part of this whole announcement.
I was gonna say for those, I feel like the importance of EVO will always matter attendance. If EVO Mexico has 1,500 people and EVO Brazil has 3K, obviously Brazil might hold more weight than Mexico.
Sure. So it comes down to attendance at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think everything is just going to be attendance.
Sure. Okay, but there is an attempt here of like having something above the rest, right? So they announced the Fighting Game World Championship powered by EVO. And at first glance, you might think like, okay, this might be like the culmination of like an EVO tour or something of that nature. But then when you start to read into it, this shit is silly to me. I think it's so. This reads like such an old. My interpretation is this was written by like a guy who is 45 years old at his youngest and used to play Street Fighter 2 and the old Capcom era.
It's funny you said that because I said I think that part was written by a 50-year-old person who used to watch in 2000s and 2010s watching Justin Wong and Trashy get multiple top 8s and want to reminisce about that and remember that. And they that doesn't happen anymore. That just doesn't.
Yes. So the goal of this tournament, they said, is to uncover who is truly the grandmaster of fighting games. Unlike existing world championships, this new format will require competitors to showcase their mastery of multiple fighting games, putting their adaptability, game knowledge, and fighting game fundamentals to the ultimate test. Only by demonstrating next-level skills across the entire fighting game genre can a player rise to claim the latest championship. And you might initially be thinking like, okay, this is going to be like the latest games, the best players, Tekken, Street Fighter, City of the Wolves, whatever the current titles is. No, hold on, there's more. We'll be working closely with our publisher partners to determine which titles will be included in this format, and we will have more information for you later this year. Additionally, we will be working with the community closely to help identify what modern-day titles and legacy masterpieces should represent the breadth of fighting games in this new tournament, with a focus on competitive, not entertainment selections. And that they say that this will be held in either EVO, either in United States or Japan as like the founding countries for EVO. And all I had to think was, what the fuck are you talking about, man? This sounds like such dumb corporate suit boomer shit to me. Like, this sounds so out of touch to me. I cannot. What are they talking about? This is such a gimmick.
I thought it's just for. It can't be for fun because people are obviously going to EVO to, train and play the hardest. But I do think, and my initial impression was, if there's a new fighting game by a publisher coming out, get all the people to play the newer fighting games, and then it's kind of like a promotion strategy. If, I don't know, say Tokon's coming out, and CVS 3 is coming out, and whatever other fighting game's coming out, and you got Sonic Fox playing Goichi in all three of them. That's kind of entertaining. I don't know what's gonna happen. Those are three purely new fighting games that I know nothing about. I do think it can be entertaining. Will it be? This sounds kind of, I don't know what they're talking about. But I do think for a newer fighting game, I think it could be cool, but I don't think it will be right.
When Goichi and Xiaohai throw down in SNK, City of the Wolves, and in Street Fighter 6, it's hype because it's organic.
Yeah,
as organic as it can be, right? They're doing it for the money because SNK has the initial strategy was Saudi owns SNK, 97% ownership at SNK. Let's make City of the Wolves an old franchise that no one remembers and make it a dog shit product, and it sells terribly and doesn't have an active player base, except for at the top level because we put $1.5 million as first place for this tour, and massive amount, $2.5 million total, I think, for the finals, and a bunch of money throughout the tour. So incentivize the top level players to play this and make the SNK World Championships. And that has worked. There's players like Goichi who's picking up the game. You see Nemo, Koji Cog traveling around. They were just at Frosty Fostings, for example. It's worked. And it's kind of cool to see Goichi and Xiaohai, butt heads at the EWC, EVOs, and the SWCs. Like, it's kind of cool to see that across multiple titles. And they're competing at the highest level in both games simultaneously. That is kind of cool because, the monetary incentive is why it happened, but they chose to do it on their own. And there's completely independent tournaments with dedicated players in them as well to get through. So that contrast is really interesting. It's like, wow, they're actually able to keep up with solo game mains and play at the highest level in both games. Like, that is crazy. Doing it this way, this reeks of, hey, we tried spending millions of dollars on the tour and no one is still playing. We still don't have enough players for City of the Wolves. Let's force these dudes to play our SNK games. This reeks to me of insecurity of the SNK products, and you're gonna Arslan Ash. Listen, you're doing great at Tekken, but if you want the big bucks, you're gonna be required to also on the side play some City of the Wolves or whatever the new SNK game is coming out. It feels bizarre to me. It feels bizarre.
I don't think people will pick up an entirely new fighting game just for that, but I do think if you're already invested, but like, I get what you're saying. There's not a lot of cross-pollination. Like, the only Street Fighter players I think that play other games are Xiaohai, Goichi, Nemo, but they're cross-pollinating into City of the Wolves. And the only other one I can only imagine, I think a lot of Strive players play 2XKO as well. But there's not really that much cross-pollination now. Anyway, I can't even name a single Street Fighter player that plays Tekken as well at a high level.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the whole point. The whole point is to stop people from solely playing Street Fighter 6, because Street Fighter 6 has become the career fighting game because it's the most stable esports platform, especially out of Japan, and people are actually having careers out of that. The whole point is to, once again, keep incentivizing people to stop playing Street Fighter 6 to play other games. And in a way to force them, you're not a true grandmaster of fighting games until you play all these other games. And it's like, is that cool for people? Like, I'd rather see people specialize. I'd rather watch EVO and see the best of each individual title all in one day, rather than someone who's like kind of good at different games. I don't know. I don't really
don't
really vibe with that.
I don't think it only has to be SF6 though, because like I said, I like watching people who are good at, you know, the only other games, like I said, Strive, 2XKO, and maybe a Grand Blue. If somebody's good at all three of those games, I think that'll be kind of sick and, you know, exciting to watch. But that player who plays, you know, all three of those games at a high level is probably only like one or two people in the world, actually.
Right. So what I'm saying is you're not going to get the best of the best. The whole point of EVO is to get the best of the best of the best. There's going to be people who have weak links in all these games. And it's sick when Xiaohai and Goichi do it because they're literally fighting the best of the best. There's no like, oh, I'm in this tournament and I have these games really good and this is my worst game and you beat me there, my worst game, to claim the crown of fighting game grandmaster. Like, it doesn't really vibe with me. It's sick when you go to a new game and in the singles tournament you beat everybody and there's no Johns, there's no downplaying the achievement. I beat all of you at your main game. That's sick.
Brian, there's been plenty of people who you've beaten in I know Street Fighter and they get up and tell you, yo, bro, that's not even my main game. I know that's happened to you a million times.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter what they say. If you win EVO at that, yeah, sure. If I win a freaking local, who cares? I'm talking about at the high. This is EVO, man. This is not some shitty local. You're not going to be in grand final. If anyone has any option in grand finals of EVO to go, this is not even my main game, that's a bad tournament. That's a bad side. There should be zero chance that there's even a hint of that mentality. In this EVO game, Fighting Game World Championships, every one of these tournaments could be like that. Any one of the times they have to play a different game, you're lucky it's not even my main game. Like, this reminds me of these exhibitions they do before fighting games come out where they have all the different random you get like a Sonic Fox, you get a Arslan, you get a Punk, you know, you make them all play the fighting game as like the pre-release exhibition, and they do these little tournaments. That's what this feels like to me. It's like a big publishing stunt. And those pre-release events are not that sick. They're not that hype, I gotta say.
They actually did one recently in New York for City of the Wolves, and you know, I thought it was pretty sick. You got like free food, you got to play. Mena was there, I was there, Lord Knight was there, but I thought it was pretty sick.
Because you got wined and dined. Yeah, no shit. If you get to play video games and eat for free, that's sick. But I'm saying from the tournament, if you're at home watching.
Yeah, I agree. You do want to see the highest of the highest level play. That's what I feel like a lot of people are tuning into EVO for. So you're right there. You don't want to see like, you know, I play this game not as much as this game, and then I'm bad at this game as well. So
right,
I get you. But for like the 0.0001% of the Goichis and Xiaohais, I think it's cool, but there's not many players I could put in that stature to play in that event.
You'd have to get Justin Wong to unretire. And just think about it from a practical level. There's 2 points here. One, the political part of this, which is they want to pick from legacy masterpieces, which are with a focus on competitive, not entertainment value. What a loaded statement that is. What does that mean? Who is deciding this? This is like, to me, the perfect vehicle for someone to fuel their bias of like, yeah, Third Strike is the greatest. All of their games are bullshit. If you might have won 18 million EVOs, Arslan Ash, but if you can't beat Justin Wong in Third Strike right now, you're trash. And it's like, dude, come on. Like, I this feels to me so much like an old head trying to live out their fantasies or like justifying why. Like, this was the golden era. This was the hardest era of competition with this old game that modern fighting game players don't play anymore. It feels just kind of corny to me, just conceptually.
It's all going to be it's just going to be Art of Fighting 3 grand finals, and if you don't know how to play Art of Fighting 3, then you're just kind of like screwed. But,
right?
Yeah, it's I you could get 8 players to play though. To me, I also feel like that's an invitational event. I feel like
it has to be invitational, right?
Yeah, it has to be invitational.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, what is even the practical structure of this? Like, you this cannot be an open bracket tournament. It cannot. How are you going to run that? Like, what is actually this going to look like? It has to be invitational.
Yeah, I mean, I also think like doing that is trying to, I put this down. I think doing that is trying to segue the FGC into more invitationals, because all the other esports do it. And, when they do EWC, it's invitational. I think they're maybe trying to get rid of more open bracket tournaments, because maybe they see it as like a hassle to run, or like unconventional. Maybe they actually prefer more invitational fighting game events just for them to kind of grow, maybe.
Right. But wait, EWC's qualifier, is there...
It's an invitation. Like, you have to qualify to get invited.
Yeah.
I still count that as an invitational. Capcom Cup's an invitational. I can't go to Capcom Cup and be like, hey, I'm here, put me in bracket.
It's not open bracket, but I think there's a big distinction between an invitational where you're literally invited and an invitational that has open bracket qualifiers. I don't know. I think that's an important distinction to make, but I get what you're saying. Because Esports World Cup, you can be nobody and qualify, right? Like, you don't have to. Same with Capcom Cup, which I think is great about those. I really like those types of invitationals where it's like open bracket, funnels people up. Like, I think that's really sick. And I think invitationals that are like literally curated a set of players for an entertainment product, those can be sick too, but it's a very different vibe. And I feel like this is I'm going to curate a hand selected set of fighting game players to put on a show. This feels more like a play to me than a tournament. They're putting on a show. Like, hey, let me, or like, it's like they're playing their action figures. Oh, what if Justin Wong fought with Goichi? And it just feels a little weird to me. I don't know. I'm not vibing with it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this will be the most sick shit ever. But I have to imagine it's an invitational with a round robin score. There's going to be lame duck matches. I mean, just think about how the tournament's going to play out. When does someone win the tournament? During which game? It's going to have to be a math equation of crunching the numbers and weighing it across different games. And I'm hating. Maybe let me know if I'm hating in the comments. If you think this is sick, let me know. I don't see it. I would love to see it.
I think it's hard to theorize, but there is like, there's like one route where it actually is very sick, and I do think it could happen, but I don't think it will happen.
Okay.
Okay, wait. Let me just. If Justin had to play Chris G across Marvel 3, Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 6, King of Fighters 15, and I don't know, some other random game, Third Strike, I think that would be sick. If they had to play like a 1st to 30, and what you just played 10 rounds of every, I think that would be really cool.
Yes, I do think this could be a sick format if you did specific show matches like this. Yeah, that could be a cool thing. Like, I could definitely get behind that for sure. But to call this the Fighting Game World Championship powered by EVO, and to say that this is going to define the true grandmaster of fighting games, and to say we're going to focus on competitive, to me, it's the ethos of how the statement is written and like what the vibe they're going for, which makes it feel to me corny. If you just said, hey man, we're going to do some exhibitions every year, we're going to get some dudes to play a lot of games and make them do some shit because it's sick. Like, that to me would be better. This whole elevating it to this grandmaster idea, it really speaks to me of that old head, out of touch, discrediting new gen type of vibe. It reeks of that vibe to me, and maybe I'm reading too much into that, but that's the impression I'm getting. So I could be wrong. It could be sick. I just feel like we're going to be watching a lot of old players, that's the other thing. I just feel like it's going to be old dudes playing old games. What is Blas going to do here, right? Like, it, once again...
Blas played 5. You got 2 games to play. You got 5 and 6.
It feels specifically designed to exclude new players and to be reminiscing about the past instead of trying to grow the appreciation and talent for the future generations of players, and to also imply that there's something wrong with you if you were born after the year 2000. Like, you are a bad fighting game player because you didn't grow up playing Alpha 2. Because that came out before you were born.
To be fair, and this nostalgia sells, and other thing, we've been getting these old man games at our EVO main lineup, so that's also kind of like a sign of that. Hey man, play the old man games. They definitely want people to get back into them.
Yeah. I don't hate on the old man games like that directly. I think the EVO throwback is actually really fucking sick. I do really like that.
I like it too.
Like I said, it's just the wording of this. Putting too much, they made it sound too important to me. That's why I'm ragging on it. I think if they just said, hey, we're doing an event for fun, by all means. But don't, it's kind of like huffing your own farts here is the vibe I'm getting with this announcement. But whatever, that's going to be one of the 11 total events that EVO is going to be running. And at first I thought this might be like their attempt to make their own EVO tour, because I would prefer that. If they're just going to go all the way, man, make the EVO tour and get points for every EVO. Then the Fighting Game World Championship is once again just the culmination of the tour. The best 8 Street Fighter players, the best 8 Tekken players, the best 8 City of the Wolves players, or whatever, 16, whatever you do. That would make more sense to me. This might be their first like foray into that, like some qualifying invitational. This might be them laying that groundwork by just doing this like grandmaster stuff, but also with a vehicle for like, hey, publisher publishing new game or trying to revive old game, this is your place to pay us to advertise here, or to like shoehorn in an SNK title that no one's thought about in 20 years. You know, like that's clearly the goal there. So we'll see where this goes. I don't know. Any other thoughts? I feel like there's many different levels to this. Overall, I feel like the impression is people think EVO's kind of lost the plot, but maybe it's different from other people's perspectives.
I think for all these EVOs that have happened, and like I said, I've been watching EVO for freaking. I think the first EVO I watched was like 2010. But yeah, to see 9 different EVOs, it does kind of rub me the wrong way. I can't remember all these EVO champions, man. I can't even tell you. I don't even remember Strive. I can't tell you EVO France's Strive EVO champion, and I like that game, and I feel like I watched it, and I really just don't remember. And it kind of sucks because, you know, back then I could tell you every single EVO champion from like 2010 to like 2019. So I do feel like EVO's lost a lot of the plot, and it just sucks. But, you know, there are... I don't know. Like, I hate to be like a Debbie Downer about this because, you know, I don't like being negative. I'm not like Brian over here. But but I...
Could have fooled me, Idom. I don't know.
It does kind of... It is kind of weird. And also, one other thing. What about patches for the games? When do these patches come out if there's 9 EVOs, man? You don't want to patch right before EVO.
Yeah, they got to give up on that. Yeah, that was another concern. I mean, no Capcom has shown a lot of concern with releasing balance patches around their Pro Tour events. That's got to go out the fucking window, dude. They got to. The only thing you can care about is the finals, I think. Like, that's it. And even that. But that might be a good thing. I think there's been a little bit too much concern about that. I have in the past for sure been proponents of like not releasing stuff prior to EVO Vegas, and like I remember I was very critical of Capcom putting out Rashid, or them making Rashid illegal for EVO Vegas right before he came out, and he was even bugged with the tornado glitch and all that. And I was like, why is this a thing? Just ban, you know what I mean? Just ban the character for a week, you know. But as time has gone on, and there's too many events saturating, and there's no one EVO anymore. Who cares? Like, if a shitty patch comes out and breaks EVO Vegas, who cares? That tournament's not important anymore. There's going to be EVO Morocco the next week, right?
Yeah, actually, that might be better.
GG's go again.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Wait, mate. If more EVOs are giving us more SF6 patches, it might not be that bad.
Yeah, if anything, it might be a good thing because Capcom's gone through the other extreme. I'm definitely usually pro, like, hey, wait to patch and be a little bit careful. But at this point, I'd rather than just ship out the door broken patch every other week and just break shit and move quick. You know what I mean? Like, get going. So, yeah, maybe there'll be a benefit there. Yeah, lots of thoughts on this. I think we'll have to wait and see. Like we mentioned before, there's definitely some positives. If you're feeling good about this, for sure, if you're getting, like, access to an event that you didn't have access to before, I definitely am happy for you individually. I think there's definitely pros to this overall. I'm hoping that this is positive in the end for the FGC. My suspicion is it might end poorly. I don't think having Saudi Arabia own this much of our collective consciousness in the FGC is a good thing. That's just flat out my opinion. I don't feel comfortable supporting EVO. I'm probably not going to EVO Vegas. We'll see about that. I don't feel good about it anymore. I just don't feel good about this whole system. Will I watch it? Probably. I can't. The spectacle's too much for me. But we'll see where this ends up. Hopefully, this is a sign also to try to support your regional events, your locals as well. Do what you can. If you're scorned by this, I definitely recommend checking out what other regional events you could go to instead. If you're not going to EVO Vegas, like Idom mentioned, you're saving a couple $1,000. Check out, Combo Breaker. Check out a CEO. Check out a Roundhouse, a Texas Showdown, whatever it may be. I think that's the best way forward. But overall, it's just a weird time for the FGC. But we move. All right. I think that's it. That's all I got. You got anything, Adam?
Support your locals. That's all I got.
All right. Good note to end on. All right. We're out of here. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace out. Hey, you made it to the end of this episode of Extra Trashy. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we also like to give a very special thank you to our Patreon members over at patreon.com/Brian_F. Without their support, this show would simply not be possible. So if you're watching on your video feed on Spotify or YouTube, you'll be seeing the names of our supporters scrolling by right now. I'd also like to personally thank right now our landfill members, Geen Drive, Grant Posington, Chris FK, Flawless Victory, Bryce Scatterfield, Chris K. Hibiki, Manolo Husky, Jonathan Ayala, SBO, Hasserus, Smoking Seabass, Chucklechuck, Kelly Lyles, and 6 Mil. Thanks to your continued support, and we'll catch you in the next episode of Extra Trashy. Peace.